Greetings, my little guzzers. Now, 17th February, start of the Chinese New Year. And actually, the 2026, what do you call it, symbol or whatever of the Chinese New Year, or, you know, that year, is a horse. But at the moment, I believe it's the snake / dragon, because the name's a little bit interchangeable. But regardless of that, we ain't eating horse. I think I might have had horse in France many years ago. I don't think they serve it anymore. But we are going to be having some dragon / snake. And let's get Harry Potter. We'll talk about House of Thrones, Game of Dragons. Harry Potter, Phoenix. Let's have a mix of a dragon and a phoenix, because they're both really powerful celestial beings, if you like, in Chinese mythology. Cool, can't speak properly, I had enough drink. We're going to make dragon phoenix soup, or as they more often will refer to it in China, Lung Fung Soup. We need some dragon. Well, doesn't necessarily mean dragon, because I said it might mean snake. And in the past they would have used snake, but more often than not, traditionally, it was seafood, such as shrimp or prawns. Now, I don't know whether that's partly, well, I was going to say, because the dragon, on this side here, there is a reason the two are together. Phoenix on the other side. I'm coming to all that. You know me, you have to give you loads of chat. Whether it's partly the fact, I suppose, the dragon might resemble the shape of a prawn, vaguely, or not. But traditionally, the dragon part was seafood. But if you wanted to be vegetarian, you had mushroom. Now, it just so happens we're going to use mushroom for our dragon / snake. That's our lung. Okay. Now, for our fung, phoenix. Now, that's definitely poultry, because it's a bird in it. And that's chicken. So I've got at least one large chicken breast there. This is for 2 people. One large chicken breast, diced all up. Equally, I've diced up my mushrooms. Now, you could use shiitake mushrooms. I'm just using ordinary mushrooms, little button mushrooms, because that's what I had. But before we do anything else, we want to get some of the aromatics in there. So I want some oil, about 2 tablespoons of oil. Okay, that will do. I'm just using vegetable oil, and then just going to get that up onto a medium to high heat. And then I've got some grated ginger, fresh ginger, and about the same amount of garlic, crushed up garlic. You're going to want about the same amount as well as green chilli, nicely diced up. And that's it, really. That's the main ingredients. We've got a little bit of chopped coriander, just as sort of to go sort of garnishy sort of type thing right at the end. We want a cornflour slurry that's settled out, and just need to give that a stir. Okay, because the soup should be thick, as it were. You're going to want some white pepper, some black pepper, some salt, some sugar, some vinegar. Oh, and this stuff, aromat powder. It's essentially a type of salt with the seasonings in. So I'm going to cut down the amount of salt that old Chef Alan said put into this, because that obviously is adding even more salt. And you can always add more salt at the end if you want more salt in it, can't you? So let's get that ginger in there. And that garlic. And we just want to just stir fry that for about a minute or so. Okay, just to start getting them flavours out. And then you're going to be wanting your chicken. Now, I said to you, it's quite the phoenix and the dragon, very significant in Chinese symbology, if you like, and mythology. Basically, combining the two, sort of marrying the two together. Oh, I'm going to turn that down a little bit. That's a little bit on the high side, I think. And I'm now just going to put that chicken in there. We're just going to chuck that in there, and we don't want to cook the chicken necessarily all the way through, but what we're trying to do is sort of get it white all over. Oh, there's a bit of chicken in there. So I was saying about these two marrying together, if you like. It's basically, that is a very powerful, harmonious, and symbolic, celebratory event. Okay, about power and strength, harmony. That chicken has been out of the fridge a little while, but obviously it was a little bit cold, so it's just gone off the boil a little bit. Didn't turn that down. Perhaps I'll turn that down a little bit too low. So like I say, all we're going to do now is I'm just going to keep sort of stirring that, turning that over. Oh, and I want to add a little bit of salt. Okay, I'm not going to add any more than that. He added quite a bit more than that. And then we're going to want your chilli. Now, we're going to add water because it's a soup, okay? But it is like considered a nice, like warming comfort soup. So rainy weather. Oh, welcome to the UK. I think it actually finally stopped today. Okay, that's the chicken, sort of nicely whitened all over on the outside. So at this point, we're now going to add in the chilli. Okay, and we're just going to cook that for a minute or two. I've moved me dragon and me phoenix up front because, like in that sort of little statue, if you like, they're often depicted in this eternal harmonious dance, which symbolises the balance of the yin and the yang. It's often considered in a lot of the Chinese myths that these two celestial beings are falling in love, deeply in love, and their union, because of how powerful each one is, one's masculine, one's feminine, it brings about great prosperity, good fortune, and makes the world a harmonious and balanced place. Right, let's add a little bit of that in there. So now we're putting in our mushroom. If you can use like dried mushroom, dried shiitake, just rehydrate it first and then chop it up. But in that goes. So now I've got my union of my lung and my fung. Excuse me, my dragon and my phoenix, and a few other little bits in there as well. So we're just going to cook that through a little bit. So I said to you about masculine and feminine. A dragon or snake, the two are sort of interchangeable. That's the masculine one, okay? Strong, powerful. While the phoenix is the feminine side, with grace and beauty. And then together you have the harmonisation of opposites. Anyway, we're just going to cook that through for a little bit. Now, the next bit is we're going to add some water. Now, the amount of water depends on how much soup you want. We're making enough for 2 bowls. Well, that and a little bit extra, because one of the bowls that I'll be the bowl that I'm serving in is essentially 2 cups of water. I know I could have done it in mils, but I couldn't be asked. 2 cups. So because we're doing 2 bowls, I'm going to need to add 4 cups of water. Now, it does mean that given all these other ingredients, it won't split perfectly between 2 bowls. There'll be a little bit left. Oh, extras. Right, I've added 3 cups already. There's the final cup. Okay, and now, and you can see why we're going to need some corn flour to thicken it, because it's a very runny soup, and it's not meant to be. Okay, it's meant to be sort of a thickish, comforting, warming soup. So it's now just a matter of waiting for that to come to the boil. Once we've got a nice rolling boil, we're going to turn down the heat, and then we're going to start adding the things like the pepper and everything else. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I've got 2 egg whites here, and we want to whisk this up like we were making a meringue. Okay, so we want some nice stiff peaks. Okay, might have been better using a proper whisk rather than this silly little thing, but anyway, I'm just going to whisk this up. I'm going to turn the camera off now so I can rest my arm a bit. I whisked the egg whites. This is ages ago. Finally, this has come to the boil. Taking bloody ages. So, you know, started to separate. So I will have to keep whisking that back up. But we don't need that just yet. But we're going to be adding that at the end almost to create like clouds. Now, whether that's part of the symbolism that here we are, our dragon and our phoenix coming together in the celestial sky, whether this is meant to be clouds or not, I don't know. But that's sort of what it resembles. Now, finally, this has come to a boil. So at which point we are now going to turn that down. Okay. Oops, not quite that much. And then we want to add some freshly ground black pepper. Okay. And then we want a teaspoon, approximately, of white pepper. And then we want this aromat powder. Now this, I can't seem to be able to get the lid off of this. So we want about a teaspoon of that as well. Now remember, this is the one that I said to you. Most of that is going straight in there, not in there, isn't it? It's essentially like a salt. So you may not want to actually add any more salt at this stage. Chef Alam, whose recipe this is, said add a bit more salt. But I think I'm going to leave that for now. Okay. And then we're just going to... Now, did I say I lowered the heat? We're just going to cook that on a little bit longer on that lower heat. And then you're going to be wanting... Where's my little spatula? Oh, there it is. You're going to be wanting to add that corn flour slurry. So I'm just going to turn that down a little bit more. Okay. To thicken it up. Now, I think I said these 2 celestial beings are quite significant in Chinese weddings, because you've got the yin and your yang and your male and your female, and the, you know, the associated things with it. I'm waving my hands about again, and they often, the couple being married, exchange bangles. a dragon bangle and a phoenix bangle, which is sort of symbolising their completion as a pair and their unity of opposites. The symbols, the dragon and the phoenix, are often incorporated in their dress, decorations, and even the wedding invitations that get sent out to people. The groom gives the dragon bangle to his bride, and the bride gives her phoenix, her feminine, to the groom, and that is meant to signify a prosperous and harmonious marital life. I think I just gave the wife a gold ring and she gave me nothing. Obviously, she gave herself to me, and that's enough. I just need to re-slurry that corn flour, okay, because it's sort of settled out at the bottom, and then we will add that, stirring that in on a low heat, and it should start darkening a little bit. We don't want to get too dark. Okay, cool. That's being a bit of a bugger trying to get that off the bottom, I tell you. So we'll add a little bit, stir that in. I mean, how thick you want it is entirely up to you. Okay. But at the minute it's very, very watery, and that's not very nice, is it? Chuck the rest of that in there. That's that done. So now we're just going to stir that through. So all that's left now is we're going to put some vinegar in it. I've got white wine vinegar. We're going to put some sugar into it. We've got some brown sugar there. And then finally, when we're almost ready, we'll put that whisked egg white into it. So just going to stir that through. Like I say, it should darken a bit, but once it's darkened slightly, that pepper earlier was trying to make me sneeze. I have to have that red wine, stop me sneezing. Believe that, you believe anything. But anyway, we're just going to let that thicken a bit before I add them final two ingredients. It's almost back to the boil. So now you could use lemon juice for this, but we're going to use about a teaspoon, of vinegar, just to give it a little bit of a tang to it. And then just realised, of course, I've got me teaspoon. I was going to add a generous teaspoon of sugar. So it doesn't have to be brown, it can be any kind of sugar you like. Don't forget that. And that's a bit small for you. That's the bit that says like and subscribe. I don't normally say that, but I've said it now. Get on there and like it and subscribe. Anyway, I'm just going to stir that through, and then start separate it out really quick. We're going to then, essentially, we're right at the end stage now. Okay, we're going to be cooking our clouds of egg white, and then we'll add the coriander, and then we'll be serving it up. So I'm just going to keep on whisking that a little bit longer until we're ready to put that in there. It's getting there where we're getting our peaks and they're staying there. I'm not going to tip it over my head because this is going to come out if I do that. So at this point, we're now going to add, switch to a ladle, okay, and essentially adding our egg white so that it sort of sits on top. Get that out of the way. What we want to do is just sort of gently try and, we obviously want this egg white cooked, okay? What we're not trying to do is, what's that on there? A hair. I don't think it's a hair. I think it's something to do with the mushrooms. I did notice earlier. But what we want to do is obviously cook the egg white without necessarily, you know, mixing it all in. It's not like an egg drop soup where we're trying to obviously just get strings of scrambled egg, if you like. In this case, we're trying to keep our celestial, well, I'll say celestial, to some extent I'm winging that one, okay, but our clouds, okay. So I've got that. Well, I'm going to use my 3D printed spoon rest, and at this point I'm now just going to sprinkle over some of that chopped coriander, okay, and then you'll be wanting to get your bowls ready. Ooh, what's that one? So I'm going to turn that up a fraction, do a little bit more of a sort of a mixing, if you like, just to make sure I've got that egg white sort of nicely cooked, and then we'll serve it. I've already served some of this up, okay, so what we're trying to do is preserve our little clouds, okay. So I'm just scooping in that soup. I haven't actually thickened up that much, to be honest. Oh, that bowl's getting a bit warm. So like I said to you, obviously I worked out the volume of the bowls, about 2 cups, but just bear in mind that with all these extras in it, it's going to take up a bit more volume, okay. So I'm just slipping a little bit more in there. I think that one's done enough. Let's have a go. It's very hot. I mean, it was boiling just a minute ago. Might want to put a bit more corn flour in it, thicken it up a bit more. It's all right. It's just not as thick as I thought it was. I'm getting the heat of that chilli, and I think from the ginger, it's sort of like that dual heat, if you like. The egg's not really, as you'd expect, imparting any real taste to it. Adds a little bit of texture. Oh, that was hot. Oh, but you're getting the mushrooms, you're getting a lot of chicken through, flavour wise, that I'm talking about, and the pepper. But there you go, your Chinese Lung Fung Soup, Dragon Phoenix Soup, all ready for the Chinese New Year, for prosperity, good fortune and harmony.